Hi, I'm Drew Larson, and today I'm going to tell you a story about leadership and leadership traits. Our story begins in darkness, and I mean complete pitch black. The only thing I can see is the light from my headlamp out in front of me. I'm freezing cold, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm wet, and I've just thrown up. It's 3 a.m. in the morning, and although that's early, I've already been climbing for hours at this point. But this story isn't about me. There are many other characters in this journey. In fact, there's one of them out in front of me right now. It's a little old man. He's short, he's stout, he's fiery, he's fierce. He's great. He's my guide. And he keeps encouraging me with soft words of pole pole, or Swahili for slowly, slowly. Behind me, though, there's an entirely different person. It's this middle-aged, wiry French woman. She's smoking a cigarette, and despite my obvious distress, she has the temerity to ask me, "Do you mind if I pass?" I know we've all encountered these types of motivating forces in our lives. And so I think it's important for us to talk about the traits that got us here, that'll get us through this, and help us reach the end. Those 3 traits are heart, grit, and team. So let's talk about heart. As a kid, I lived in Colorado. I was a Boy Scout. My dad was a Scoutmaster, which meant that he was taking my buddies and me on regular weekend camping trips. In addition to earning merit badges, we learned about leadership and followership and community and self-reliance and teamwork. But as you can imagine, it takes a certain type of person with certain traits to lead and manage a pack of young wild boys. And for my dad, it was apparent that he was passionate about the outdoors. He loved the mountains and the woods, and he had a heart for nature. It was his passion, his love, his heart for such things that was contagious. And clearly, one of the keys to being a great leader is having a heart for the things you do. It's what leads you to that thing time and time again. It's the thing that a follower can see and they can respond to. It was that passion that led me to this moment right now, standing at 16,000 feet and asking myself, did I make the right decision? Having a passionate heart is the beginning of all great leadership journeys. Everything begins with a passionate heart. So if heart is what starts every journey, it's grit that helps you endure. Grit is the trait that you access when everything in your brain screams, stop. I learned grit from my granddad, Big Jim. This wall of a man was 6'6", 280 pounds. He loved oil. He loved cigars, and he loved Bluebell ice cream. And every summer during my teenage years, he would haul me out of bed before dawn to the West Texas oil leases where it's 100 degrees every day. Out there, there's no shade, there's no water, there's no excuses, just rattlesnakes and mesquite trees. And it's my job to kill them both. His job, though, was to keep me alive. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it. But grit isn't about comfort. It's about commitment to doing something that matters more than how you feel. And back on that mountain, I thought about Big Jim and his relentless work ethic and his nonstop grit. My head pounded, my lungs burned. I was approaching the danger zone for altitude sickness. See, at these elevations, the troubles turn from annoyances like fatigue and nausea and headache to something more deadly, like having fluid fill your brain or lungs. It can cause confusion, it can cause coma, it can cause death. It was obvious my mind was racing. Pole pole, said my guide, which is Swahili for take it easy. It was time to keep going. It was time to reach down, and it was time to find that grit. And first, though, I stepped aside, and I let that French lady pass. And I could see the faint light of her cigarette as she headed on up the mountain into the darkness. And I knew that I would see her again before the day was done. And finally, that brings us to our 3rd trait, team. No one conquers a mountain like this alone. Leadership is never a solo climb. And on Kilimanjaro, we had a small army with us. We had porters who carried food, water, and tents. We had cooks who made tea, coffee, and sandwiches for us. We had guides that found the trail, gave us instruction, and led the way. And in fact, my guide, as we entered the park, pulled out his cell phone, called his wife to tell her he loved her and he'd be back in 6 days. And it was a small reminder that behind each of us was this invisible network of families and friends and mentors that back home they were all supporting us. And it was because of them and this network that finally, at 5 o'clock in the morning, we reached the very top of Kilimanjaro, nearly 20,000 feet above Africa. The clouds stretched out beneath our feet, and the first rays of sunlight warmed our faces. I hugged my guide, I waved to that French woman, and in that moment I realized that leadership isn't about standing in front, it's about standing with. And sometimes you're leading, sometimes you're following, and sometimes you're moving from following to leading. So leadership, I've learned, isn't a title or a trophy. It's about the journey. It's about having a heart and passion that draws other people to you. It's about having grit, the courage to do things even when no one else is watching. And it's about having team and the humility to recognize that you never are alone in these things. And these are the leadership traits that have served me well in my professional life, my personal life, and my servant life. So I encourage you, go find your mountain, climb it with heart, endure with grit, bring your team with you, because these views are way too beautiful to enjoy all by yourself.